We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. Our guest this morning is Davidson County Sheriff Daron Hall. By the way, we're not only on the Plus this morning, where we're going to take some phone calls, but we're also streaming live on Facebook at newschannel5.com, monitoring some of the questions and comments here. Some people bring up when we talk about security in schools, Sheriff, among other things you could bring in, and this has been discussed, metal detectors. And I understand people throwing things out there. You understand why that would not have been a factor yesterday in many of these shootings. So whether there's a metal detector or not, these guys are going to walk right through it. It's not like he was a responsible adult going through there being screened. So what do you think, metal detectors?
It's a little bit like the airports to me. I'm somewhat offended some days when I walk through the airports today. Not offended, but it's probably kind of struggles to go through all that. But the reality is, it is a peace of mind. It is a stage that may catch certain things. But, But if a person wants to do something bad on an airplane, they know the procedure of searching and how to avoid that time. So a person who's coming to the school, we got to remember this, to kill people doesn't care what the rules are.
Right.
So they're going to find that manipulation. Now, I was on, as I mentioned earlier, we studied a lot of different things, such as a central point, making sure people come through metal detectors and that type of thing. I don't think that's a terrible idea. I just think that that's not going to prevent, again, that you need to be prepared for the step past the metal detector, and how do you do it?
And if it's a step past, someone else is mentioning this, and I think we were talking about how in Texas, in some instances, if they're qualified, teachers can be armed. Now, we don't know about what the situation was at this school, if there were any, but the idea of teachers carrying guns in school, which is a controversial topic, but thinking if there's a teacher there with a gun in a classroom with kids and a gunman out there, maybe that teacher can protect the children. What's your thoughts on arming teachers?
I just cannot imagine what we're talking about. I'm not philosophically there. What I am is, isn't teaching hard enough? I mean, we ask them to teach the academics of our kids, and I don't believe kids should be, I don't believe schools should be raising children. The parents need to do that. But we're even asking teachers to do far more than I think you should be doing anyway, beyond teaching academics today in the world that we're in. And so I just can't imagine, I'm not saying you would push them to do it, but to then have an elementary teacher walking in a hallway with a gun on their side.
That's what SROs are there for, right? School resource officers, which I think is a very good thing. In Tennessee, you have them in a lot of the schools, but they're not in all of the schools, and it's a resource issue. But the SROs, again, are typically sheriff's deputies or police officers assigned specifically to schools to monitor the hallways and be there, and oftentimes in some of these shootings, they're the very first ones on the scene, of course.
Yeah, and I'm a fan of that. There's more reasons why. I saw Chief Drake sent something out last night that was really wise. He's asked all of his officers in their zones to go into the elementary schools today. A lot of times elementary is the grade in which you do not have SROs. In a lot of places, it's the later stages of putting SROs in the school. Prioritization has always kind of been if you go back, it's the older age, disgruntled teenager involvement at school. So elementary's been the later one to really think about, and so I suspect that's where we're all headed. I mean, what is it going to take? Now, Nick, you're going to laugh, but I saw a guy last night, I haven't verified this, but that there's just not even enough people that are retired law enforcement, because that was the comment. Couldn't we try to find more people? Because, look, I mean, you hear me say this, you hear Chief Drake, everyone else, staffing is incredibly difficult, and if you start putting on hundreds of more assignments in every elementary school, even if you want to pay triple what you're paying today, finding the qualified person to do that is going to be very, very tough. And I just
you're right. I got the same message from a couple people saying there are probably many retired military or law enforcement, and that sounds good, but I'm not sure how many of them are going to be lining up. They'll all be lining up ready to do this. We all want to protect children, but I'll believe it when I see it. You have to pay them. There has to be certain training. There has to be requirements. If it could work, I'm all for it.
Me too. Me too. And I don't know the answer. I think that's a novel concept. SROs are a good thing. I think they've worked in a lot of ways, and as you said, they're on scene. They're usually trained. Nashville's done a good job at getting some retired police officers to go work in some of the private schools. Keep in mind, a lot of schools, you got more than just a public school environment going on all over the country too. So it would be and will be a tough staffing commitment to figure out. Just because you need qualified people, you don't want just anybody in there sitting around with a gun pretending to be a safety officer. I mean,
exactly. Let's take some phone calls as well. I was talking about comments on Facebook. We go to Ann. Ann, good morning.
Good morning. Yesterday my heart just dropped, especially after the conversation from MorningLine from yesterday. I worked for Metro schools for many years, and I joked for over 15 of them that I was nothing more than a glorified general flunky. But on days like yesterday, I went home saying the most important things I ever did was be the person that piloted the lobby guard system when Metro piloted it, and was using it on 2 occasions when a parent attempted to remove a child from the school and their ID got caught while scanning it, and I was the one using the system. And on days where I had walked around the building endlessly closing doors that had a pebble or a rock, or reminding a teacher to please close a window, because in my mind that was the most important job I could do, because first and foremost I was a parent, I was an aunt, I was a grandmother, I was somebody's friend, I was a child's protector. And no matter what, I was somebody's protector that day. And if nothing else, I had done my job.
Yeah, yeah.
And she hits it about keeping people out. There are doors, you may mean well, but kids go in and out for recess, a pebble in the door, the window open in the springtime to cool off the classroom. That's why you need monitors like Ann, who, you know, walked around the school and saw those things.
Right, and God forbid something happens, that's when those individuals, I can't imagine the teachers that were in the hallway and their responsibility. I mean, there was a great story here in Nashville of I think, a teacher and maybe 2 other teachers that were involved with tackling a person who was trying to run in the building. And I mean, God bless them. I mean, I cannot, and that was part of this event. But I just, you know, it's such a it's such an innocent place. You know, that's all I keep thinking about.
Elementary schools. Right? You and I have been in there to read. We go and read students, and they're just such pleasant, just innocent, wonderful places. And those children at that point, too, before you get into middle school, when they talk back to you, or high school where you get some snots, you know how it is, they get more of their mind of their own. These children, that's what's just so horrifying. The age, it would have been horrible no matter what.
You're right.
But little children, who kills 19 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders? I mean,
I cannot even, and again, I'm not justifying it, it is still horrible, but the Columbine thing where these students were high school students coming back kind of bitter, angry, I'm not saying that's any less significant, but I just think of these kids who literally, and wouldn't even think to be fearful or worried. I mean, the parents, I'm sure yesterday morning sent them off without ever thinking that could ever happen.
Right.
They're worried about them maybe getting hit by a car.
You think that's the safest place it should be for them. And then, listen, we'll take a break. We have to do that. We'll get more of the comments on Facebook if you're following us there right now at newschannel5.com. And we got James and Regina and others on the phone. Want to talk more about this with the Davidson County Sheriff, Daron Hall, right after this. Stay with us.